Gang, this is just a quick start, look, guide, whatever you want to call this, for anybody who just needs a quick refresher on how to get started on Final Cut Pro. I'm not going to go into super detail about all of the ins and outs and the tools and all that stuff, but I do want to give you guys just a quick thing on how to get started, just in case you need a refresher when we're not in class. So, and you need to reference this. All right, the first thing that you're going to do is open up Final Cut Pro. This is the icon for Final Cut Pro. It's the little cinema title clapper thing. Once you launch Final Cut, it's going to give you a window that looks a lot like this, or an interface that looks a lot like this. Over here, you have your browser. Your browser is where all of your raw images and clips and sound that you are going to use to put your video together, it's all going to live right here in your browser. If for some reason you don't see your browser and you don't understand why, you can just go over to the window or view and, oops, I'm on the wrong thing. You can just go over to window or view and until you find the browser tab, and it'll bring it up. Or you can just click over here on this little grid of squares and click show or hide the browser. This one over here is to show or hide the timeline. Of course, we always want that. And then it just totally depends on you guys. I like seeing I think this is the properties, the inspector. I like seeing the inspector tab because if I need to adjust things, oops, sorry, let me mute this. If I need to adjust things in terms of size or whatever, this is where I can do that, or locate, in terms of where I want it on the screen, I can do that here. This is also where I can find my color corrections tab and any metadata or info that I might need. Okay, the first thing that you're going to do is make sure that all of those are turned on. You don't have to have this one on, but I suggest you do. And what you want to do is go to File and create a new library. The reason I think it's best to start with a new library is just because it keeps all of your files organized. So for instance, I'm going to create, there we go, the new library, and I'm just going to call it, I don't know, documentary 1. Save. And it's going to pop up here. Anything with these little 4 stars, that's a Final Cut Pro library. And then within your library, you have what we call events. The 1-star icon is an event. You can rename it and call it whatever you like. For instance, if I want to work on things separately, like maybe I want to do a movie intro, I can call it that. I can create another event by just clicking File, New, and Event, or I can do one of the shortcuts, which is Option N, and create another create another event. What I want you guys to really pay attention to are the settings for your events. These are really important. Give it a name. So let's say I'm going to call this, main story. It's going to live in Documentary 1 library. I do want to create a new project so that I have somewhere to start. My starting time code should be at 0. I don't need to do the drop frame. Your video format, you want to make sure it's at 1080p HD. Your resolution always needs to be at 1920 by 1080, and your frame rate is fine there at 59.94p. Your rendering, you want to make sure you have it at Apple ProRes 422 LT. If it's probably going to be on something different, make sure that you change that. Your standard codec is fine. You want stereo, that's fine. And then 48 KHZ is fine as well for your sample rate. And then you're going to click OK. And then you shouldn't have to adjust any settings after that. But what it's going to do is, so let's say these are my movie, this is my movie intro, maybe where I'm going to do like the opening credits and stuff like that. But my main story where I'm going to edit, I'm going to put it in here. It's, again, it just helps you stay organized. And so I'm going to give this project a name. I'm going to call this main story project. Okay. And then when you click on this, it's going to open up the timeline where you're going to start editing your project together. Now let's say I need to import some clips. You can do Command I, and it'll give you your media import window, or that's the shortcut, or you can just go File, Import, Media, or you can click this little arrow, down arrow, and import like that. I always do the short keys. That's what makes me a ninja when it comes to editing in Final Cut Pro or any other editing program. Okay, you should not have to do, let me just give this a quick browse. I don't want you to analyze. Sometimes you can analyze video for balance and color or fix audio problems. I don't suggest you do any of that. And the reason is sometimes, rarely, but sometimes Final Cut Pro will make an adjustment and then think it's okay and it's really overmodulated or just doesn't look right. So it's better if you do your own editing in that way. Over here on the left-hand side, you can import from any number of places. I'm just going to pretend like I am, I'm just going to import this. Okay, I'm going to do import selected, and here it's going to show up again in my browser. It's going to separate things by date. You can decide how you want to view these things. You can rate these. If you like, you can analyze and fix by right-clicking here. I just tend to leave everything there so that, you can be as organized as you want, but I tend to leave everything there just so that I can have easy access to it. Sometimes it gets confusing when you have a lot of files. And then when you want to bring that down into your timeline, remember, you can hit the I button to set your endpoint. I'm going to fast forward a little bit by hitting the L key, stop it, hit the out point. And now let's say I want to bring that selection down onto my timeline. I just hit the W key, and then there you go. If I want to bring in another piece of video and bring that down into my timeline and snap it, I can just click the Q. It's going to add a space down here because it doesn't know exactly where I want it to go. Or I can hit the W button and it brings it exactly, snaps it to the timeline. Let's say that you are finished and you're ready to export your project. What I want you to recognize up here is this little background tasks window. Anytime this is working, don't export until it's finished. It works pretty quickly and it'll give you a little plus sign here. What it's doing is it's fixing and rendering any issues that it might have, that the video might have. You can click on it and it'll show you exactly what it's doing. So now that my background tasks are finished, I'm going to go ahead and export my video. I'm going to go File, Share, and then Master File, or the shortcut key, Command E. So once you hit Command E, you want to give it a name, test. Look at the settings, and you do need to adjust the settings, but you should only have to do this once. After that, you shouldn't ever have to do this again. You want to make sure that you're sending out video and audio, and your video codec should be at H.264. Your resolution should already be set at 1920 by 1080. Your color space should be set. Audio format should be set. And then QuickTime Player is fine. Your roles, you don't have to adjust anything here. You shouldn't have to. Hit Next. It's going to ask you where you want to save it. So direct it to where you want it. I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to press save. And now it's going to export. You can see up here my background tasks. If I click on it, it's sharing. And it's telling me how much longer it has. While that's happening, I want to show you this too. This is kind of cool. If you go File, Share, you can actually share this directly to Facebook, directly to YouTube or Vimeo. And then once it's finished, it'll pop up on QuickTime and tell you that it's successful. I'm gonna hit close. But yes, you can actually share this. Where did it go? You can actually share this directly to Facebook or YouTube or Vimeo or add your own destination. So it's pretty cool. Before I finish up here, Command plus gets you zoomed in to the timeline. It also, this little line down here allows you to adjust the volume. If you need to separate the volume, you can right click and then hit detach audio, or you can hit Control Shift S. Control Shift S detaches the audio for you. Command Z will undo it, and then you can, adjust the volume as needed. And there you go. Okay, that's how to get started and how to start cutting things together in Final Cut. We'll get more into detail as we get in the class and as we go through the semester and as you learn more shortcut keys. For now, this is just a quick guide on how to get started and how to export.